What's up, Burn Bootcamp Nation? Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp Podcast. I have Julie Will here today, a member from Indian Land. She's been here since October of 2021. Julie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you, and I just want to really dive into your journey, all right? But right off the bat here, I gotta ask a couple things, all right, about Burn. All right, what's your favorite protocol?
I like the one, I don't know the name of it, where you're standing in front of the thing and you lean down with the weights behind you, touch your knees and come back up. I like that one.
Okay, all right. Do you like athletic conditioning better than strength training?
Nope, strength training.
You're a strength training gal? All right, good. What has been your favorite moment so far at Burn Bootcamp? Before we get into your story, I just want to know your favorite moment here at Burn Bootcamp. Was there like something that was really inspiring to you? Did you come to tears at any point in time?
So I'd been here for almost a year, and we had a woman, and I still don't know her name because we didn't get a chance to really meet each other, but we were nearing the end of camp, and we were finishing with like a team push-up. And she was having some struggles, right? She was newer, and she was at the beginning of her fitness journey. And everyone in the group, even though they had technically come to the end of what their count was, everyone continued to do push-ups with her until she was done and just kind of cheered her on. And that was really moving and really wonderful and just one of the things that reminded me of why I like being here. We
don't get to see that too much in life, do we? Outside of like sports?
No.
Maybe in sports you get that a little bit, but like normal life settings and you're building communities, you just don't get that.
No, unfortunately, people, once they've gotten to where they think they want to be, they don't look back anymore.
It's interesting that you give that type of scenario because the one that let me know that Burn Bootcamp was going to be a powerhouse in this industry was a Saturday camp way back in the day. You know, we were in a parking lot, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we started in a parking lot. I've known Tammy forever, who owns this gym now, and had 150 people in the parking lot, and we were doing plyometric. Okay, so you know on plyo days, those legs just start to go, they get fired up. So I have all my members doing jump squats in 15 lines of 10. I line them up and you're doing jump squats. And I say 3, 2, 1, go, and they take off, and you know the first group does okay. Second, 3, 2, 1, go. People start falling over.
Oh no!
Right, because they're I mean, this is early on. They're not conditioned quite enough yet to like do what I was asking them to do. And then row 3, row 4, row 5, all happened, right? And it's like doing jump squats and then 1 or 2 steps and boom, 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 and they tumble and scraping their knees and like blood is everywhere. But like the first 2 groups that had that conditioning came back, picked up the other ladies, and then walked them across the finish line.
That's nice.
Similar to what you were talking about. I was like, this is it. This is what I want in my life. So tell me about your life. Where did you grow up? And then walk me through maybe some things in your childhood that helped shape you and kind of where you're at now in life. How did you find out about Burn, and bring me up to like sitting in this moment, and then we'll talk about the future.
I grew up in Florida, South Florida, Fort Pierce and Fort Lauderdale area.
Okay. We're just down there not too long ago, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
Pompano Beach area.
I was in Pompano right before we moved up here, Pompano, Boca Raton.
Yep.
I liked living in Florida. I just didn't feel necessarily that it was where I wanted to stay, but I was just there because it was all I ever knew. I met my current husband there. We decided to have 1 daughter together, and from there we went and decided to make the move here.
Okay.
I was ready to get out of Florida and to make some changes. We didn't grow up in a family with a ton of money, which isn't that important, but I felt that not many of the women in my family were empowered to speak their truth or have their voices heard.
Any particular reason why that was?
I don't really know why, because on the outside, if you look at the women in my family, they all seem like they're very strong and empowered, but from the inside looking out, that really just wasn't the way that it was. And I don't know if that was just from their parents, you know, hearing that they weren't permitted to be, they could be that way here, but you couldn't be that way outward. You had to just be subservient to someone. It was just never the way that I wanted to be. And so because I didn't believe that anyone could silence my voice, I got in trouble a lot for, you know, talking back and not listening and stuff. And so
in the home or outside of the home?
In the home.
Okay.
In the home. Like outside of the home, what I believed is what I found to be true outside, right? Like, it was okay for me to talk, and it was okay for me to say no if I meant no and express what my opinions were, and there was nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So growing up when it was like that, it just made me feel like I didn't belong. And I did struggle with that for a long time. It did affect my self-esteem and my confidence. Even going into high school, like all through school, like I made friends and I had friends, but I never really felt like I got super close to anyone. And I think that was because I was always afraid, were they really going to accept me for who I was, or were they going to allow me to be who I knew myself to be? And that continued up until adulthood. And then finally, I guess you just get to the point in your life where maybe the give a damn is gone. Like I just didn't concern myself really with what other people were thinking, and just decided this is who I am. And
Like
if
the
people,
acceptance of the judgment as your own character?
correct,
Yeah.
right? Like this is me, and this is how I want to live. Once I did that, I feel like I just had more confidence and I became more comfortable in my skin and who I was.
Let's stop on that point, because I think that's so helpful for so many people that get to the, so many people are still in that, right?
Yeah.
They're still in that. They haven't found that line in the sand that, jump off the proverbial cliff type mentality. Why, like you said, it's because I guess it's just a I don't give a damn mentality, but like, what prompted you? Were you still in Florida? Was there a certain something that you weren't allowed to say or do that you just were like, you were fed up with? Your pain boiled up to the point of not being able to express yourself, and to the tipping point. And I'm trying to find out, because it's so helpful for people. It's like, what is that tipping point specifically?
I think it was a combination of things. So I've been married twice. I married my first husband when I was like 19. And we had a son fairly young, and he wasn't a bad guy. He just was a guy who wanted to have conversations, but at the end of the conversation, his word was the word that he felt should be followed. It drove me crazy.
A dictator?
Yeah, kind of like, yeah. I mean, and he was never mean or cruel, but that was just the way that he wanted things to be. That didn't sit well with me. As a result, our marriage failed because that was kind of the thing. Like I now have a child who is looking to me for guidance, and am I okay setting the example for this little person who's looking up to me, that someone is allowed to treat you any way that they want. And that was a big thing for me. Is I have him, I now have 2 more children that are girls, and it is my life's mission to let my kids know that no one is allowed to quiet you, no one is allowed to say or do anything to you without your express consent and permission. And it's just, if I don't teach them that you can stand up and be confident in who you are and not allow people to treat you badly or less than, then who will?
What types of things that you can remember from your household or from your childhood do you remember that were those things that you look back on and you're like, I'm not going to allow my children to have this type of experience because I felt what that is like, having that experience? I can hear you generally speaking, but if you have a specific story or a specific, hey, I really wanted to express myself this way and it didn't, and I wasn't able to, was there like a tipping point that made you say, okay, no more, never again? And then was the ultimate, what I'm hearing is that the ultimate like line in the sand was having a child, right? And not wanting that child to grow up with the same experience of the world that you had, and that was the motivating factor.
And
for you.
I think that really probably was the line for me, was just finally realizing I had to make a change, and I had to understand that if I didn't, then my kids, even though I wasn't going to try to do that to them and treat them that way, if I allowed myself to be treated that way, then they would think that others could treat them.
Wow, what a foresight. That's an incredible
and
foresight.
as a kid, my mom, she's a nice lady, but she wasn't always very loving and accepting.
Right.
And an example, you would want to just do something or spend time with her or try to have a conversation with her, and there was never time. If it wasn't something that was of interest to her, then it wasn't of interest. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
You have these things that you want to talk about or that you want to experience. She never had the time for that.
Well, we say this in leadership too, like in parenting is leadership. It's like you need to understand the what and the why and the how and the where behind
everything,
where your people want to go or where your children want to go.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand that. I have a father and mother who, mother was pretty absent and dad was the same way. It was just like, hey, when you score points, I will show you love. Or when you strike people out, I will show you love. Or when you score touchdowns, I'll show you love. Other than that, not that interested.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
it's unfortunate, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
then to me, that just cost me a relationship that to this day I've never gotten back. And
With your mother? Or
yeah,
with your
with my
husband?
mother.
Okay.
And it's just been, it was just an ongoing battle, and it always made me feel like I didn't belong, like I didn't fit in. You know, if I wanted to go to school and I wanted to do well and I wanted to go to college and I wanted to have normal things, a place to live, you know, a car to drive, money in the bank, things like that, she would criticize that I was trying to be better than her.
She's
or
like a
better
competition
than,
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a competition.
Right.
And so I just,
Especially with your children. Like,
so in my early 20s, I
Yeah.
just had to finally
okay.
say,
I got it.
enough's
So
enough.
I get it now. The connection was mom and you had a competitive relationship, and so you didn't want that competitive relationship where you're competing with your son in order to show him that.
Yeah.
You're like, I got to get out of this relationship, or I'm actually, in fact, doing the actions that
Yeah.
I was refusing to. I get it. I mean, is that correct? Am I?
yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's incredibly introspective of you to be able to like make those connections. And you know, like we were saying, like most people never kind of get to that point
Yeah.
where they're able to say, hey, line in the sand, too much pain, you know, it's not going to happen. And how's your, no, and so like fast forward, like you make that decision because of your son. You guys, I would assume, have a very good relationship because of that.
We do.
Okay.
We do. He's 26 now, so
Nice.
we're pretty close, and he has a great relationship with his sisters, and you know, he and my husband, his stepdad, have a wonderful relationship, and it's been great because I think I live a life now that I'm happy with, and that I can reflect on and believe that I'm in the place where I'm supposed to be, but hopefully I'm also projecting that to my kids, that there is such thing as a happy, well-functioning family, and relationships can be healthy and normal, and you can have nice, normal things in life, and there's no reason to be ashamed or to feel like you're not worthy of those things.
Have you had an opportunity to forgive your mother? Have you had an opportunity to show her gratitude, or she had an opportunity to do that to you? Have you guys tried to reconcile this? Is it, because I have the same things with my parents, right? And I only have my perspective, and I just like genuinely curious in terms of like how you would approach it, because I'm not sure if my way's the right way.
Yes.
Okay.
Opportunities have.
Is it you coming to her, or her coming to you? Or?
Usually it's me coming to her.
Okay.
I will say it's been a long time since I have come to her for
Have you
anything
forgiven
like
her?
that. Yeah. I mean, she was young when she had kids.
Have you told her that you've forgiven her?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know that it matters, because in her mind, there's nothing to forgive.
There's
so
nothing to
it's
forgive.
hard to accept forgiveness when you don't believe you need it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
So.
And it's that self-fulfilling prophecy of somebody that
Yeah.
knows things and can't hear anything else. And
Correct. So yeah, I mean, I don't hold bad feelings towards her. That being said, we don't have any sort of real tangible relationship. She does not really have a relationship with my children.
Yeah.
She knows my son because she was around him when he was little, but for the sake of my girls, she doesn't know them at all.
Right. Do you feel the how'd you say, weight of having to be mom and grandma, or do your kids not know the difference? Like, what is that?
No,
My kids don't have a mom on my side. We don't know where she is. So I'm like, she got one grandma, and my Morgan's mom is amazing.
Yeah.
Right, and she's great. It's like.
So I have a stepmom.
Okay.
And my stepmom has been a wonderful mom to me. She's been a great grandmother to my kids. My husband's mom, she passed away a few years ago, but she was fantastic. And I mean,
So you don't feel all that pressure to be, the
No.
whole lineage of your family
Yeah.
packed into one person?
no, I don't.
Yeah.
Because it just, I can offer what I can offer,
Yeah.
and I don't feel that they've missed anything by necessarily not having a relationship with her. Only because I don't believe she's had any growth or wanted to make any real significant changes, and I don't want the toxicity around them. I think that it would be more detrimental to them to have somebody who's bad than to not have somebody at all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So.
What have you learned through the process of this experience? It's a lifelong experience up until a certain point, until you realize it. Like, what did you learn about yourself?
So when I finally made the decision to try and make some changes and set those boundaries, and that I was 22, 23, so it's been almost 25 years. What I've learned is it's okay that I have standards on how I want to be treated. I think it's more than acceptable that I don't have to allow people in my life that I believe don't bring some kind of value, regardless of what that value may be. And it's okay for me to set those boundaries. I don't have to accept toxic people simply because we're related by blood.
Right.
And allowing myself that freedom just
Do you
makes
think
things
that
a little better.
related by blood trap is one that people oftentimes fall into? Like, I can't do anything. I'm handcuffed because they're my blood.
Yes.
Yeah. That was not going to be you, huh?
Well, no, I don't think it has to be anyone.
Yeah.
I understand that it's not everyone can make those ties, and cut those. It is a difficult decision, and once you make it and you start to employ the behavior to remove that, it can be painful and there can be backlash. But for me, to try to keep fighting to get through the other side and see if it actually could be better, which I thought it could be, was worth it.
Yeah.
But I was willing to sacrifice whatever I needed to get to where I wanted to be. Not everybody has the ability, and I understand that. I think everyone should believe that they're worth it and that they're deserving and should try.
Have your kids, now that you said they're a little older now?
13, 15, and 26.
13, 15, and 26. So the 26-year-old is getting to the point where it could probably be a little bit more retrospective.
Yes.
And do they acknowledge you for any of the way that you've handled? Because this is like, I think this is going to be a great podcast for people, by the way. I always like to go in and just like kind of just dig and ask questions. But I mean, so many people go through this, right? Of, I'm married to this person by blood, but do I really like them? Like you have to ask yourself that question. That's a hard
Well, people are afraid to admit that they don't.
answer. Yeah, it's a hard answer to actually admit. Have you had has your children commented or, just maybe acknowledged some of the strong will that you've had through this whole thing? Do they understand what's going on?
I don't know that my girls do as much because, the decisions I made happened before, I even met their dad.
Right.
But yeah, I know my son does. I think he sees it just because he's 10 years older than his sister.
Right.
So I think he saw a little bit more. He witnessed more. It's unfortunate because I never wanted him to witness when my mom was having these episodes, but on occasion he did. When he was a teenager, of course, they know everything, and they don't always want to take the advice that we give. As soon as he got literally 19, 20, 21, and he had some life experience and he was able to kind of look back, we've had conversations where sisters are fighting and I'm trying to give them advice and he'll be like, you should listen because this is actually important and she's right. So that has been pretty amazing that
A smart kid, 26 years old, getting that.
Most got
times,
through.
Some people don't get that till
right?
they're 50.
It got through.
Yeah.
He was listening. So any advice, your kids do listen, and eventually they do take your advice, and they will. I think they do come full circle and acknowledge.
Well, clearly you're a great role model, and you've come through some things, and we've all come through our own things. And one thing that's interesting to me is it doesn't matter what you've come through. It's your perspective can, whether it's physical abuse or drug and alcohol or emotional abuse you experienced, everybody's got their own battle. Everybody's got their own mountain, and the path to the mountain peak to conquer it is hard.
Yep.
Regardless. And I hate when people try to downplay or compare their experiences, their painful experiences mostly to other people, but it's oh, well, you didn't really experience pain because, oh, I had this happen to me, right? And you could keep doing that forever, and it's that comparison game. But I just think that it's such this is an enlightening conversation because you are relaying and articulating what that journey up that side of the mountain looks like. And from my perspective, you're on top of that hill, and then you're bringing people along with you in your family and being a leader that you always knew that you were. And how do you, so my question is, assuming that you feel that way, Now that you're on the mountain peak, right, and you've overcome this thing in your life that is hard to overcome, what's the next mountain peak? Like, where do you get to go from here? Because most people battle their entire lives trying to figure out the emotional confusion of why they were treated this way. And it seems like you've done a lot of introspective work. So,
yeah,
two
well,
questions.
mostly because I don't want to make the mistakes.
Two questions. Where's your next mountain peak? And is that frame of reference of like climbing the mountain, being on a peak and looking at the next one, is that correct? It's my first, I don't want to pre-assume that that's correct, but that's where you're at in your life. It seems like that's where you are. But if that's correct, then where's the next peak?
I don't know if I'm at a peak, like from my perspective. Yeah, I feel like I've overcome some things, but I don't think the journey's over. Does that make sense?
Definitely
like
not. Definitely not over. Definitely not over.
My mother continues to be a challenge even to this day.
You'll battle this forever.
It's never going away.
Right. But you've been able to put a system and a strategy in place to manage it so
I
that
do the
it
best
doesn't
I
affect
can.
your life.
I try to help my younger brother because now he seems to be the one sometimes that carries a little bit more load. He's not set the same boundaries, so I do try to help him. So she's always going to be there, and constantly experiencing that tries to make me want to do better. So I don't know that I'm ever going to feel like I've reached the peak, but I definitely feel like I'm always doing better and achieving more.
Okay.
What the next peak looks like, I don't know that I know.
Well, you're clearly a
that
leader
means.
for your family, right? You're leading your family through some of this emotional turmoil. What is the next thing that you want to lead your family through? You know, obviously, you're here at Burn. Fitness is a big part of your life. Is it health? Is it fitness? Is it success? Is it what are the things that you are going to instill into your children that you were never able to get instilled into you by your mother because of the emotional turmoil?
That they can do whatever they want, that they can be what they want, that the only limits that they have in lives are the limits that they place on themselves. And that doesn't mean that everything is going to be easy, because it's not. And it doesn't mean that they're actually going to have success in everything that they try, because they won't. But a failure is an opportunity for growth and change, and if they embrace it in that way, then the possibilities are limitless, right? It's like I just want them to feel encouraged to go after what they want. And, you know, if that's college, fantastic, then we're there to take them. If they feel college isn't their route, great. What is it that you have passion about, and let's figure that out, and how can we help you get there?
Right.
But just to keep pushing them to discover who they are, what they want, and know that they can have and be that if they put the work in.
No, that's beautiful. Where does Burn come in to your whole life?
Burn was something I did for me. I do believe that self-care is important. And
how do you define self-care? Just curious.
Honestly, exercise, a massage, reading a book, anything that I can do that takes time that is just for me, something that I enjoy, that I don't have to think of or serve anyone else.
Got it. It's a great definition, by the way. And we did not rehearse that, everyone. She just came up with that off the top. So.
Well, that's just what's important to me, and I think, I know most of the time if I don't put it into my schedule and make sure that I'm intentional, that I will put it on the back burner and I allow it to stop. So for a while, I've been trying to exercise, and we've got like a gym in the basement, and I'll go down there and do stuff, but not as often as I wanted. So I wanted some accountability, and I didn't want to be in the gym for an hour and a half. Like I just don't have that time. So I heard about Burn, and I saw a promotion, and I'd seen and heard about it for a while.
It was just knocking at your door for a long time?
It had been, and I was like, I'm going to try it. But it was always that, I'm going to try it, and then I would forget.
Right.
And so finally, in October of 21, I came in and loved it. Like, as soon as the first class was done, I didn't need to do the 4 weeks to see if I was going to join. Like, I was ready to sign the paperwork immediately.
Yeah, we hooked you.
Yeah, you hooked me.
Let's go.
It was fantastic.
Let's go.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
And everybody was so wonderful. It was as if I had been coming here for years already. Everybody was just fantastic. So it's been a good environment. It's been something that I put on my calendar to come. And when it was time to renew, that was just a no-brainer. I don't anticipate that I would ever not renew.
What about the community here helped you learn more about yourself?
They're super encouraging. Even when I feel like I can't, they tell me that I can. Even when I don't want to, they tell me that I have to, when I want to be lazy. And it's just a sense of community. Everybody feels like they're a friend that you've known forever, even if it's somebody that I've only seen in a class once or twice because we go at different times and I don't even know their name. It's still a high five, it's still, you've done a wonderful job, all of that stuff. And it keeps me coming back because it makes me feel like it's a place I belong.
Have you translated any of that into your own life? Like, how's the community here? I'm asking because it's done, excuse me, I'm asking because it's helped me, it's helped shape my life in so many ways that I could sit here and talk to you for like 7 hours about it. And I'm always just curious, like, is there anything that sticks out to you specifically of how the positivity, the relentless encouragement, the belief, the optimism, the kindness, the camaraderie, the togetherness, the inclusion, has that taught you anything that you've then taken outside? Is there any other groups that you've translated this stuff to? Like, how are you paying forward what Burn has done for you? I'm curious.
I think Burn is such a good fit for me because I've tried to have a lot of positivity in my life. So this brings it kind of full circle, right? I mean, even if you like working out, sometimes there can be a negative thing because it's at a time you don't want to do. It's hard, you get sweaty. You can always make excuses, but I try to be positive with work. If something doesn't go well, it's okay. What can we learn? What can we change? How can we move forward? That kind of stuff. So I feel like this and what I try to do at work and with my personal life, it all just ties together. This has made me feel and be more conscious of diet at home and encouraging everyone to eat healthier. I mean, I don't feel like we're bad eaters, but on occasion you can go down that rabbit hole where you're eating lots of junk food. And like, it just has encouraged me to take the nutrition side and the fitness side of things and bring it back in a little bit and try to be more active with others in my life, not just for myself. So it's like, I'm going to the gym and it's a fun place to be, so why don't I see if I can find somebody who wants to take a walk with me or who wants to do something. Like, it can be fun. It doesn't have to be work and boring.
Okay, so 2 more questions. How has your journey in fitness and your emotional journey, how are those things coming together, right? And if there's 100% of character that you want to build, or this future version of yourself that you're chasing. I always think about it like my biggest hero is the version of me 10 years from now, right? Like, to me, that's the most exciting hero, right? Because then I like to look up to other people too and like be mentored by other people too. That's good and well, but I want to make myself proud, because if I'm making myself proud, I'm making my family proud, and it trickles down. Is there something in your life like that right now is the gap from where you are today to where you want to be? Not a box you need to check or anything like that, but something that you consciously are developing, working on internally, something to do with character. Maybe it's routine. Maybe there's a new career path that you want to take. Like, what are you working on now? Because you've overcome all these things, right? And it's super inspiring to hear that you have gaps and you overcome these gaps, and but I think what I want people to hear in your answer is that you don't get to stop, right? There's always, I use the term peak, right? But there's always the next step to take forward, right? Because if you stop, and stay stagnant, you're going to start sliding back down. You're not going to keep going forward. What is your move forward? Like, what are the things that you're trying to really dial in with Julie, and how are we executing those things?
One of the things that I am really trying to work on is self-esteem.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I just don't always feel kind of comfortable in my own skin, which is odd because I in my mind, I feel confident, right? And in my mind, I feel like I can do anything, but just physically, sometimes I feel like I can't.
Okay.
And so one thing I've been working on for a while, and I know Burn is helping me with, is just building the self-esteem and the confidence in myself and my outward appearance, and just projecting what I feel on the inside on the outside. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it totally
But,
makes sense.
that's kind of what I'm working towards now. I have a lot of life that I still want to live. I don't feel like it's half over. I feel like it's just beginning, and part of that is for me to be healthier mentally, but healthier physically. So regular exercise helps me control my blood pressure. I have arthritis and I have fibromyalgia, which makes it sometimes a challenge to get up and to keep moving. Coming here and having the encouragement, even on days where I'm not feeling great and where it feels like it's a little harder, is helping me change physically so I can lose the extra weight that I'm carrying, and I can feel better physically, but feel better about the way that I look to carry me forward, because I want to travel and I want to see so many different parts of the world.
Right.
And if I'm not healthy physically, mentally and physically, then I'm not going to be able to get to those things. So
Let me ask you this:
continued
do
growth.
you know how to get there? How do you do that? Like, what's the this is not a trick question. Like,
Okay, no.
Are you like, what are you doing that you know is going to get that? What you're talking about is physical strength. I
Yes.
want to feel more confident, as confident as I do on the inside, because I can get up there and do a pull-up, or I could do a, push-ups on my toes, or like
Yeah.
whatever. Like that's that's an empowering thing for anybody,
Yeah.
right? Are you working toward a specific performance goal?
Yes. So I've hit some small things, like just increasing the weights that I'm able to use when we're doing some of the exercises. And by some comparison, they may not be very heavy, but for me, I know where I was and where I am. So that has been fantastic. I would love to be able to do a pull-up without a band. That would probably be a miracle.
I got a trick for you. You ready for it?
Just do it.
No. That's be like an easy thing to say. Just do it. I don't think that's good advice. My advice would be lose the band, because if you always have the band on, then you're going to always have the training wheels on. And if you don't take the training wheels off,
Okay.
you're never going to be able to ride the bike, right?
All right.
And then instead of trying to do the normal pull-ups, I want you every day, okay?
Okay.
If you do this for the next 60 to 120 days, you'll be able to do a pull-up, no
Okay.
problem. Hang on that bar, over the top, chin over the top, not touching it.
Okay.
Hang at the top in your strongest position for 1 minute total of time every day.
Really?
All you gotta do.
Okay.
Promise.
All right.
You don't have to do the eccentric motions or the negative reps or like any of that stuff. You hold your butt up there on that bar, suspending your body weight with your strength, in just a minute of cumulative time.
Okay.
Right? So you go 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, and there's breaks in between, great.
Okay.
Do that every day. And time under tension, the reason I want you at the top of the motion, time under tension is what's going to build muscle, right? Really, it creates that stimulus response from your body to say, oh, she's serious about this. She's gonna stay up here. So we might as well
Okay.
just build some fibers to help us stay up here. And then what you're gonna notice is the eccentric and concentric part of the motion, the up and down, we're going to get easier over time. And somewhere within 90 to 120 days, you'll hit a growth curve and you'll be like, okay, I can now do this.
Really?
I promise.
All right, then I'm
Promise.
going to try it.
I promise.
Yeah, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to get through like a plyometrics class without pausing.
Okay.
So I'm getting better, but yeah, there those little milestones, like
Got it.
specifically in Burn, just making it through some of those classes that are just a more of a challenge.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be the prettiest or the fastest.
Yep.
I just want to get through without stopping.
I love the pull-up one. I don't love the plyometric one because would you like my perspective on
Yeah.
that? So I believe that if you're working, you should show up to the gym and as best as you can, you should put as much effort that you have in your body that day toward your exercise, toward your routine. And if you're doing that the right way and you're expending maximal effort, the idea is to stop.
Okay.
Right? Like failure, right? We actually want to chase that. So if you're doing jump squats and you're trying to pace yourself to not fail, then you're not going to trigger as much muscle build as you are going to if you were to say, all right, I'm gonna do 28 of these things in a row with the highest intensity that I have, and then I'm gonna take a little break. And then I'm gonna do 20 more, and I'm gonna take a little break. So for what it's worth, the failure in the gym, I really like the ideology of chasing the failure, and then the metaphor of how you can translate chasing failure in the gym when there's no circumstances, there's nothing like really of substance on the line. And then when there is something of substance on the line out there in the real world, it's like you're used to failing, you're used to chasing failure. You know what type of pain it takes to get to the point where you grow. So pull up, definitely. Plyometric, I want you to stop during those plyo days,
it's okay for me to need to take those breaks. All right, well, then I'm going to try the pull-up thing.
Well, I just don't want to set you up for failure and be like, don't stop, it's a good goal. Like, no,
then I just fall over,
Exactly. Okay, so last question for me. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for opening up. Let me ask the last question. If you had a microphone like you do right now, and you had all Burn Nation listening to you like you do right now, what would you tell them? What would you tell the version of yourself before you were coming in? How would you encourage people to show up for themselves and walk through the doors?
I would tell them that the first day you walk through the door, it is hard. If you come in here and you think it's going to be easy, it's not. Don't get disappointed if you can't make it through your first exercise without stopping frequently and taking those drinks of water. But keep going, don't quit, keep coming back. Every day that you show up, it gets slightly easier. You will have people that are going to support you, and you will get stronger, you will get better as long as you put the time and energy in.
I love that.
It's worth the work.
I love that. That's great advice, Julie. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of Indian Land and our greater Burn community. I really enjoyed our conversation today. I know people are going to really like it as well. And if you guys really like this, make sure that you give that review and that you subscribe to the podcast, because we are on Apple and Spotify. Those are the two main platforms, but we're everywhere. And we're also on YouTube with this visually. So flex on that subscribe button. Do not miss an episode. Julie Willa, thank you so much.
Thank you.